Hello, everyone, and welcome to Escape to Nature. I'm glad to be with you. It's me, Trishala, and you are looking at the Okokoyo waterhole. Already, we spoke about colors yesterday, and I think today the colors are amazing. So much blue, absolutely beautiful. And we've got some zebra that have come down to have a bit of a drink. So I think that's a wonderful start to Escape to Nature. Now remember that we're live and interactive, so send through your questions and your comments, whatever you like. Maybe your thoughts on the day. Usually nature related, but hey, we can just chat. It's always nice to explore and be curious and learn together. And you can ask questions by going to our website, registering, and sending your questions and comments through there. Oh, just a little springboks come through and is now bouncing away on the right there. I thought we could start a little bit kind of with a wider view so we can really take in what Okokoyo is about before we start zoning in on the animals that come to join us. I must say that it's a little bit quieter than I expected. But as the day gets warmer, temperatures increase, I'm sure that we're going to get a lot more traffic down this way. Animals will start using those pathways and coming to this precious resource. Water, often called the currency of life, and it really, really is. It affects everything that's going on around it, from the geology, the geography, to the biology and the zoology. Anyway, it was raining yesterday at Okokoyo when we ended our escape to nature time, and I hope that we'll see the benefits of it. But let me send you over to have a look at what the weather is like today. Nice and hot again today, so I'm sure that we are going to get quite a bit of traffic. I'm hoping that some elephants will come down too. I love escaping into nature with all of you during this time. I think it's such a valuable thing to incorporate into your day. We often talk about, health wise, incorporating vegetables and fruits, which is amazing. It's something that everyone should be doing. Exercise, that kind of thing. But spending time in nature, whether it's virtually, if you don't have access to a natural space, or if you actually go into it, I think it's something that's really valuable. And actually, there's a lot of research to show that being connected to nature in a way, whether it's virtually, although being in an actual natural space is best, is really good for our health. And I feel that that's really very true. And I'm sure those of you who spend time observing nature like this virtually or in your natural spaces will feel it as well. And it's one of WildEarth's missions to connect people with nature across the world. And I think that African wildlife is just such a beautiful, beautiful way to do it. So if you would like to help us with our mission, please do pop over to our website and click the donate button so that we can continue on with our mission, because it really is a beautiful one. And also remember, it's not for nothing, you can win some private safaris as well. Nature's not only about learning, it's fun too. Hi Pam, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. You say you're excited for another awesome E2N, or Escape to Nature, experience. I am too, Pam. I kind of really like this anticipation of waiting for what could come down to the waterhole. I see there's a bit of movement towards the right. Some zebras, it looks like, coming down to the waterhole. One of the things, I mean, not just when you're watching the cams, but in general, when you're out in the bush in a proper wild space. So I don't mean um, areas where you can know where all the animals are because they're collared or they're sectioned out and things like that. But in a space where you really don't know what's going to be around the corner, one of the best things about being in a space like that is the potential. What could happen? What could come down? What we could see. Oh, goodness, look how glassy, mirror-like the water is today at this Okakuya Pan. And that's because it's not very busy, so very little disturbance. And those blues are just magnificent. So let's see. We can get a slightly closer look. Not too much, just a little bit. Okay, maybe just a little bit more than that. Sometimes this camera is my friend. Sometimes it needs a little bit of coaxing. Isn't that just a stunning, stunning view?
Jetzt musst du eine Aufnahme machen, da hast du Spiegelbild.
Mit den Zebras, ne? Das ist schön, wenn ich auf die Kamera das reinlegt. Wir versuchen das mal. Er ist auch eine Hottentottenanbeterin gefunden. Einfach mal so.
So peaceful.
Die sitzt da auch nur und bewegt sich gar nicht, ne? Ich da jetzt
Oh,
Schloss
wow.
hingehe, was machst du dann?
Oh, the reflection of that zebra walking along there is just stunning, isn't it?
Eine Zebra geht rein.
Well, this is what I like about Escape to Nature. Obviously, we do get into a lot of discussions and we learn together, etc., and you ask some brilliant questions. But we also just get to enjoy nature. I'm going to be quiet for a little bit as we just watch them and we settle in. Hopefully, settling into the relaxing part of your day and letting go of whatever else you have to worry about, at least for a while you're with us during Escape to Nature. So enjoy the sounds and the sights for now.
Nur der eine heute. Okay.
Machen wir weiter?
Oder weiter? Ja.
Interessant. Ja, so ein Geräusch war das heute Nacht. Oh, das weiß ich ehrlich gesagt. Aber eher so eins, als irgendwie. Glaubt ihr, man könnte einen Zebra reiten? Kann man nicht. Weil es eigentlich nicht mit der Kategorie Pferd ist. Das sieht aus wie ein Pferd. Sieht aus wie ein Pferd, Mensch. Ich glaube nein, die Treiber haben sich schon ganz viele gestellt. Ich glaube auch ganz viele haben sich schon gestellt. Aber dann siehst du das
This is really, really, really pretty. I'm glad that I just let you enjoy that for a moment. Nina, hi Nina. You would like to know what's been my favorite sighting thus far? On this cam, I am probably the black rhino. Yeah, I'd say probably the black rhino. I mean, I love it when we get to see elephants. That's always such a pleasure to watch them come down. There's a time we had giraffes as well, but the black rhino was probably the most special for me. I've not seen a black rhino in a wild space in real life. As in, I mean, this is also real life, but I mean in person. So that was really really special. So I think that was my favorite. What about you guys? So I'm obviously I don't do the damn cams very very often. Usually when you're with me, it's either at one of the locations, either at Karicha or Amakala or Juma. So I'm sure that you all who have been watching this cam for quite some time may have had some really awesome sightings. So let me know because I would love to build myself up even more and create unrealistic expectations for what I may see here by listening to all your amazing stories. I love managing my expectations towards the upper bracket. I love creating excitement around what I could potentially see because I very rarely get disappointed. And that's not because I see the most fabulous things and amazing things, and if I think about it, it's going to happen. No, it's just because I don't usually get disappointed by things. Things are what they are, and so I like to get excited about what I could potentially see. So if there is any amazing sighting you've seen here, and I'd also especially like to know about evening sightings, so like nocturnal animals that have come down, stuff like that. If you have any wonderful stories, please let me know. I remember, oh, I wish I remembered the name of this viewer. It was a last time, it was a time when we had the black rhino, and she had sent through a comment about how the black rhino, she had seen a black rhino and it was nursing and it was at night and things like that. So let me know if you have any of those, particularly great sightings you've had during Escape to Nature on the Okokoyo cam. That would just build me up.
Flora lovers, don't miss Wild Earth's botanical pinnacle of the year. Join our resident botanists, Steve and Trishala, for the Flora Fest. 3 afternoon drives from the 13th till the 15th of April, celebrating Plant Appreciation Day and Day of the Mushroom. Wild Earth, it's in your nature.
I am going to bet that those are zebra. Oh, there's a zebra running quite quickly. So I'm looking on the other side of the pan, running across. Perhaps it just got separated from its herd for a moment. So if this is the first time that you're joining us and you're wondering, what am I looking at? This is Okokoyo. And Okokoyo is it's a small settlement in Etosha National Park, which is in Namibia. And this waterhole that we're looking at is really, really iconic and attracts not only a whole lot of animals, but a whole lot of tourists as well. Because this area is an arid to semi-arid area. So any collection of water like this is going to be really attractive to the animals in the area, and they're going to flock here, which they do. And so do the tourists. Now, we spoke about the fact that we saw some rain during the day yesterday. Now, oftentimes when it rains in this area, it's usually in the morning or at night. And Etosha also gets summer rainfall, like we do here. Well, not here where I am in the Western Cape. In the Western Cape of South Africa, we get winter rainfall, but the rest of South Africa gets summer rainfall. So up in the Sabi Sands, that's going to be a summer rainfall area too. And Etosha in Namibia, summer rainfall area as well. January and February are usually the wettest times of the year, but it can extend into April too, as we saw yesterday when it rained during the day. And it gets about half the amount of rain per year as the Sabi Sands up in Djuma. So up in Djuma, you're looking at about maybe 600 milliliters. But down here, you're looking at about 300, 350. Obviously, that's an average. And especially in semi-arid areas, it can be quite sporadic and uneven, and quite localized as well. So in this part, in the Okokoyo portion of Etosha, there could be rainfall where a little bit further away, even just a few kilometers away, there's no rainfall on that day. So it can be quite uneven and quite sporadic. And all those things influence the biodiversity and the movements of the animals. Hi, Haley. You would like to know what's my favorite kind of weather? Ooh, Haley, there are all types of weather are appropriate for different things, I would say. Uh, I I used to be the kind of person that really needed it to be hot to be comfortable. When I mean hot, I mean like 28 to 32 degrees Celsius kind of hot. Once it got over 35, once it was like 38 degrees, it was a bit too much. But I was quite happy at that temperature. But now that I live in the Western Cape of South Africa, where it's not that hot, 28, 27 degrees Celsius, so that's about 82 degrees Fahrenheit. That kind of temperature is really comfortable for me. But one thing that I really love is when it's hot and it's rainy and humid. I mean, obviously for it to rain, it needs to be below the dew point temperature. So it's not usually, 38 degrees Celsius and raining. Usually it could be about 28 degrees Celsius, 26, and it'll start raining. So it's still really nice and warm, lots of moisture and humidity. and it starts falling as rain. It's just, I feel very wild when that happens. But at the same time, I love it when it's rainy and cold and stormy. All good for different things. Guys, you know how hard it is for me to pick a favorite thing. That's too much. Everything is so appropriate for different times. Well, we were right. Those certainly were zebra that were making their way down. But it's going to get much busier. As any water, water on leaves, so we're talking about the rain recently may have filled up little puddles, etc., that would have made this water hole less critical. But it wouldn't have been a lot of rainfall, and there wouldn't have been significant filling up of any other depressions. But what would have been quite significant, because obviously if it's raining, it means that there's lots of moisture in the air, which also means that there's going to be lots of dew when the sun rises that have been kind of scattered along the leaves. That, as well as actual raindrops that would have been on the leaves, that will only have a chance to evaporate once the sun comes out and the temperature rises. So many, 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 many animals will take advantage of that. And if they have met their moisture requirement, feel quite satiated, hydrated, they might not come down to the pan until they need to a little bit later on, and of course until those other sources of moisture dry up, which is only a matter of time. But also remember, and we spoke about this before, that a lot of the trees don't want to lose moisture either. So there are going to be quite a few small-leaved trees. There are also mopane trees in this area, but acacias, in terms of trees, are quite dominant, but of course there's also shrubs and grasses further away. But the majority of those, bar mopane trees, have small leaves. So it also means they're going to collect less dew because they're smaller, less surface area. Hi Valerie, you'd like to know if grazers prefer certain types of grass? Absolutely. It all essentially comes down to palatability. And palatability is really just how tasty it is and how easy it is to chew on. So some grasses, so it's not necessarily related to nutrition, but it also happens to be related to nutrition. That sounded a bit confusing, so let me try to get that right. Those grasses that are tastier and less fibrous tend to be more nutritious. But the animal is not going for the grass because it's more nutritious. It's going for the grass because it's tastier. If that makes sense. It just so happens that the tastier grasses tend to be the more nutritious grass, like buffalo grass. So these are grasses that if you had to pull out one of the blades, you could quite easily chew on the bottom. But some grasses, like thatching grass or turpentine grass, they're not really very easy to eat. They're very fibrous. So animals who are grazers are not going to go for those kinds of grasses. That being said, though, diet out in the wild kind of has a hierarchy. Those most palatable grasses or leaves for those browsers, the most tasty ones, juiciest ones are going to go first. So it's essentially just like, you opening up a variety packet of chocolates and you're going to eat your favorite ones first. But it doesn't mean that you're not going to eat the plain block of chocolate last. It doesn't mean that you're not going to eat it at all. You're just going to eat it last. So that's the same thing. Maybe you have a favorite color, M&M or Smartie. You eat those first. Doesn't mean you're not going to eat the others. You're just not going to eat them first. And the same goes with animals and selecting their diet for herbivores, that is. They are going to go for the thing that's tastiest, and once that runs out, they'll go for the next tastiest thing and the next. Because at the end of the day, it's their digestive systems that are really good at extracting nutrients from even some very poor grass and browsing material. That's going to help them. The digestive systems of herbivores are, some are poorer than others in terms of the actual mechanisms and the amount of nutrients they can extract, but nevertheless they do very, very, very well to extract the amount of nutrients that they do from what can sometimes be seemingly dead, dry vegetation with little nutrients. Some digestive systems, like I said, are more efficient than others. When it comes to herbivores, ruminants are very, very efficient, but ruminating takes time. But an advantage of ruminating is that you can eat here, and then maybe there's some sort of disturbance, maybe a predator comes along, and you can run away to an area where there's nothing for you to eat, but you've still got it in your stomach, and you can stop there and start to ruminate. So it's a long process to extract the nutrients, but it is efficient, and it means that you can eat and stock up on food in one area and then move to a safer area where you can sit and ruminate and actually digest that food. The other option is a hindgut fermenter. A hindgut fermentation is something that, for example, zebras and elephants, they are hindgut fermenters, whereas the majority of the antelope are ruminants, including a giraffe. A giraffe is a ruminant too, the largest ruminant. So hindgut fermenters, and you can tell by looking at their what was the dung? I was going to say their scat, and that's not correct. Scat is the defecation of a predator. But you can look at their dung and you can see there's quite a bit of roughage that's still in the dung. And that's because it's not as efficient a process as rumination. But the advantage is that because it's quick, they can eat quite a lot, and they can eat indiscriminately. Just kind of because they're constantly eating, they can chomp on anything. I mean, zebra, you might even see zebra feeding on grass that has been recently burned. And I don't mean just on the nice new shoots that come out. I mean, that's really, really, really expensive, or what should I say? That's like prime property. Those little shoots that come out after grass has burned, because it's juicy, it's new, it's fresh, it's full of nutrients. Everybody wants in on that. So zebras obviously will take that, but they'll eat that roughage and that burnt material too, and they still manage to extract nutrients from it. And that's thanks to their hindgut fermentation. But also because they're constantly eating and their digestion is quicker than with ruminants. But we will chat more about, I guess, the specifics of their diet as well. But for now, I'll just be a little quiet so you can enjoy the sounds and see what else comes down. Seems like the zebra and the springbok are our main animals today. Well, I mean, they always are. They are the usual suspects. Even our Abdom storks have not been around. Let's get a bit of a wider view and maybe just look around the pan, see if we have any approaching friends. No one under the shade of that tree at the moment. Such a good patch of shade, though. I think the ground does look a little bit damp. Here we can see some grass on the left here. But remember that grass will usually colonize disturbed areas. And remember that this is near a lodge, so it would have been a disturbed area. So grass coming in there. Be nice with some grazes. Difficult to tell what grass though. And it looks quite short. I like having a bit of a look around at the camera. Obviously looking at the actual waterhole is nice too. Looking around kind of gives us a good idea of the area. Now on this end, a lot of the times we've seen elephants. I mean, obviously some have come from the other side of the pan towards that tree line or from that tree line, but I've seen a lot of them come from this direction as well. So whenever I turn the camera in this facing this way, I hope that we're going to see some elephants. I also really like when we're kind of focused on something and then from the side this elephant makes an appearance. I think that's very cool. It's one of those surprises. So this kind of geology that we're seeing here, so we're seeing this really flat, very white area. So this is part of what Etosha National Park is dominated by, the Etosha Pan, which is essentially this kind of shallow depression, or at least the minerals and soils associated with it, is saline. Remember, salinity or salt is a mineral, and mineral rich materials in terms of soils usually have this very pale color, very white. So this will be very mineral rich, coarse grained sand that we're looking at, or rocks essentially, if it's very coarse grained. Which also means that any water in the area is going to be mineral rich as well, because all of that is going to leach minerals into the water. And like I said, the landscape in Etosha is dominated by this kind of saline pan. And I know we say pan and we think, oh, it's meant to be water, but it's not water. A pan can just be a flat, shallow area. But in this case, it once was an ancient lake. And that's something that happens often, or something that we see often when there was an ancient lake, because water has and holds a lot of minerals, and as water evaporates and dries, those minerals have to go somewhere, and they usually get deposited in the ground beneath the lake or beneath the river, and you get these mineral deposits. You see it with like deltas and salt pans, flats, etc. You see it so often because those minerals have to go somewhere and they get onto the ground. So at one point, that Etosha Pan, which this would be a part of, was an ancient lake. And it leaves behind this layer of mineral-rich deposits, clay as well as these coarse-grained materials. And because of the nature of the history of this area, it obviously being a nature lake, an ancient lake, it also means that the types of rocks and soil you're going to see here are going to be sedimentary, because water is often associated with sedimentary rocks, because water comes and lays down more and more material or sediment, and then it becomes pressurized over time to become rocks on its own. Like limestone. Limestone's a sedimentary rock. Oh, awesome. I've got one comment from when I asked earlier about what some of your favorite sightings were. And I think it's Mrs. Walrus. Yes, Mrs. Walrus, you say the best nighttime viewing has been when you saw two rhinos mating. That's awesome. That's really, really special. Were they black rhinos? That would have been even more special. In Etosha, you can see black and white rhino. If they're two black rhinos, that would have been so, so, so awesome. I'm having a bit of an elephant feeling. I don't see anything, but I have a feeling about elephants today. Hopefully it works out. Oh, that's an interesting question, Danny. Danny would like to know if I've ever experienced an elephant birth or seen one. I have not, but I have seen before and after. The whole process, it can take a very long time. It obviously depends on the mother, so many circumstances, the position of the baby, etc., how long labor will actually last. But I remember seeing a pregnant elephant who was so heavily pregnant. My goodness, she just seemed to it felt like if she touched a tree she would pop. She was super wide, and on top of that you could see the baby moving. And if the baby is starting to move so much and you can see it so obviously, I mean, she's really, really close to giving birth. It almost looked alien-like, because you could see the baby's, could almost make out that it was a leg or something of the baby as it was moving. So she was probably very, very close to birth. And I've seen brand new calves who still look like they've got bits of placenta dried up on them. Obviously, plenty that still have umbilical cords. But there was a time that we saw a stillborn that was still with its placental sac close by as well, which would have happened quite recently. It didn't look very dried yet. But I've not seen an actual birth. And remember, because that's such a vulnerable time, and remember that the majority of predators are not specializing in taking down elephants. But newborn elephants are very vulnerable. So a mother is going to go into an area where they can be well hidden. Sometimes she will leave the safety of her herd, not for a long period, but she will leave the safety maybe for some portion of her labor. And other times, she may be surrounded by her herd as a form of protection. That happens most often. But I'll talk to you about some other interesting birds that I've seen as well. Births. Or close to, as opposed to birds. I've seen interesting birds also, but we'll talk about some birds.
Did you know that explorers are watching ad-free right now? Right this very minute, they are listening to the soothing sounds of nature and seeing uninterrupted content.
I'm shaking with excitement.
But don't fret, you can try out an Explorer subscription in monthly, 6-monthly, and yearly options. Experience nature naturally, totally ad-free. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
In my experience, there was one time I was really, really sure that this female impala, was about to give birth. Right time of the year, like I said, end of the year is a great time to stand by and be patient while watching impala ewes. So what an impala ewe will do when it's about to give birth is it will separate itself from its herd. And you can kind of almost see contractions. And it's a difficult thing to see if you're moving. You have to be kind of standing or staying still and then watching closely. You can kind of see her contract. So I did see that a few times. A ewe that was separated from her herd, heavily pregnant, moving towards the thickets, distracted, but also alert, but also eating, kind of a little bit confused. Could see the contractions, but then she moved very far into the thicket, and that's something that happens quite often because remember, they don't want to be exposed during that most vulnerable time. So they move into the thickets to be away from any potential threats. Especially, and I'm on in the most basic way, you at least not want to be too visible. But then I did see, I think my favorite one was we knew that this rhino was pregnant, and she was beautiful. She was so lovely and big, and we hadn't seen her for about a couple days, and everyone was asking about her because, and this was in Juma, because we knew that she was pregnant and we wanted to know what was happening with her. And obviously, we want to know how our rhinos are doing. So people were constantly asking. Nobody had seen her for about 2 or 3 days. Might have been even a little bit longer. And then suddenly, and this was a time when we weren't showing rhinos on Juma. Suddenly, in the middle of the PM safari, luckily I was not live, I saw her. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is great. I must let everybody know that she's fine. And in tow came bursting out the tiniest rhino I had ever seen. This thing had, when a rhino is born, they don't have any horns. They just have this very long face that looks disproportionate. And then on top of that, their little feet are huge, but they're very skinny. So it was just it almost looked like a little alien, little rhino alien running alongside her, but running straight to me. And this baby was still wet. It was wet. It had some of the placental sac was still around its back. The mum's behind was also still wet and had bits of things hanging all over the place. So it looked like this had just happened. And this baby came bolting towards me with the happiest rhino movement ever. But obviously this is not a good thing because the baby obviously has no idea about what is safe, what is not safe. It's just been born. This is a brand new world. The car is similar looking to its mom, I guess. But with white rhino calves, they do tend to run ahead. And so this baby bolting straight towards me. It stopped within 2 meters of the vehicle. And now I don't want to reverse as well, because that will just startle it more, and I was just hoping that it does not come closer. But as it was running towards me, the mum is running towards it, so I've got this massive white rhino running towards my vehicle, and a baby closer running towards the vehicle. But they were absolutely fine. It was almost a little bit of excitement, and the baby was just almost doing a bit of a jump, even. That was probably the closest birthing, big mammal birthing experience I've ever been a part of. And we couldn't show you either. but that was absolutely beautiful. Hi, Tatum. Newborns are very, very vulnerable. So Tatum's just asking how vulnerable newborns are to predators. The most vulnerable. There really is no other age group or condition that is more vulnerable than newborns. And that's because obviously they're small, but on top of being small and poorly developed, many newborns are born with their eyes closed, their ears closed, barely furred, unfurred, or unfeathered. So incredibly, incredibly vulnerable. But at the same time, they are often hidden, so that kind of helps. So their basic structure is one of vulnerability. Limited senses, limited movement, and definitely no defenses of their own. The second thing that makes them quite vulnerable is that their parent still has to function, still has to eat, still has to hunt. So they're left alone for long periods. They're often hidden, yes, but they are left alone for long periods. And I guess the third factor is that at the moment where a predator meets a vulnerable young, the mother is not going to risk her life to save her child because it just doesn't make sense. For example, and we've seen this before in the Sabi Sand, I can remember it was Shudulu, the leopardess, and her cub. She had a den there by Simbambili, which is just to the west of Juma. So that leopardess, her cub is at the den. A hyena comes along. I can't remember who it was. I think it was June, but I'm not sure. Part of the Juma clan. She came through and she snatched the cub and she ate it. And Shadula would not attack that hyena. And no animal would attack another animal that has killed its calf or its young. I'm talking about in the wild. And yes, there will be exceptions, but generally speaking, they're not going to, once the animal has actually attacked and has got its child, it's not going to come and save it. And that's because it's a death sentence for the young if its mother is dead anyway. But if the mother is alive, it can reproduce. So kind of, I know it sounds harsh, but it makes sense. Rather one death than two deaths, essentially. Because if the mother dies, that calf is going to die too. It cannot rely on anybody else, especially not at that vulnerable stage where it may have not been introduced into a herd, if it is a herd animal. Now, buffalo can sometimes be an exception. They will try really hard to save calves and other members of their herd. But even still, if it's a brand new born calf, might not really have had time yet to integrate into the herd. It's really a harsh environment out there. But at the end of the day, it does make sense. Aaron, you say nature at its best. Definitely in terms of the sights and the sounds. And in terms of making sense too. We were talking about the birds and vulnerability. Makes sense. Sounds harsh, but does make sense. That time when Shadulu lost her cub, and it was eaten by, I think, June, but please correct me if I'm wrong. It was so heartbreaking. But it's just business. Shidulu needs to continue to live and continue to reproduce. And essentially, it's not the most massive loss, because that cub was only a couple months old, if that. Everything always works out in the end. Such a sensitive, well, not a sensitive, there is always movement towards equilibrium of some sort. Sometimes it's sensitive, sometimes it's big, but the buffer zone is quite large, and nature always tries to move towards equilibrium, balance. Hi, Gerald. You'd like to know which birds are calling in the background? I wish I could tell you, Gerald, but I can't hear any audio. But you are welcome to send me your best written description of that bird. Unfortunately, I've got MC in my ear and an external mic, so if I had to turn up this audio, you're going to get terrible feedback. And I wouldn't have a spare ear to listen to whatever it is that you are listening to. I challenge you, Gerald, to send through to me your best written description of what the bird sounds like, and I will try my best to tell you what it is. But since I can't tell you what it is, I can give you a moment to listen to all of the wonderful birds and the sounds, and give you that opportunity to write it down for me. I hope that you managed to hear the birds that were calling. I wish I could too, but unfortunately, right now I can't. Getting a little bit more traffic coming through. So it is raining at most of our other locations, if you're wondering why you're stuck with me. But hopefully we'll have Madikwe on board pretty soon. Luckily for me, or maybe even unluckily for me, I am coming to you from the comfort of my home office. But it's always, always better to be out in the field. I think that this is actually a little bit, it's like dangling a carrot in front of me. Oh, I get to watch all this wonderful stuff, but I'm not there in person. but it is still nice to be able to do this. And also to be able to watch from a distance. I really do enjoy that. Hi, Michelle. That's a really great question. Michelle would like to know if all antelope have specific or certain breeding seasons or birthing seasons. No. So there are some animals that have specific birthing seasons. For example, with impala, we know that the rut is happening in this April-May period. And we know that they're going to give birth in November, December. So it's quite specific and it's synchronous. There are other animals that will do that too, like topi and blesbok. Many animals will do that as well and have a kind of rut or a lecking season. But there's a lot of antelope that don't. For example, kudu don't have a birthing season. They don't have a breeding season. They can breed whenever. But you may find that the majority of births, for even animals that don't have a breeding season and a birthing season, the majority of those births tend to happen in the spring or summer. And that's because there's an abundance of resources. There's more water, which means that there's better growth. And better growth means that there's going to be a better food source available for youngsters. In terms of predators usually don't have a birthing season. It's kind of whenever, and it has to do very much with their estrus cycle. And their estrus cycles are not synced up like they are when it comes to, for example, the rut with impalas. But again, many predators will give birth when resources are abundant. And resources are abundant for them means lots of hunting opportunities. And we were just talking about how vulnerable young animals are. And if the environment is saturated with young calves, all these impala lambs, for example, at the end of the year, it's a very good strategy because there are so many lambs around. And remember that impala are far more numerous, or herbivores are far more numerous than predators are, that the predators can only eat so much. And so the amount of calves or lambs that actually survive to reproduce again in the next few years is quite high. So it's a great strategy for everyone to drop their lambs at one time so that the environment is saturated. Now there is a predator that is sort of a little bit different when it comes to when they have their denning period or their birthing period. So I said a lot of them don't really have one. Lions, leopards, they don't have a particular time. They can get pregnant at any time. But usually, especially with lions, they tend to happen synchronously. So if one female is pregnant, it's likely that the others are going to get pregnant as well. because they have an induced ovulation. So even though they'll come into estrus, them actually ovulating is induced. And if there's a male who's mating with one of the females, it's likely that there's others who are mating with the others as well. But wild dogs, African wild dogs or African painted wolves, do have a denning period. And that period, or the birthing period, is usually in winter, which seems so different to everything else we've been hearing about an abundance of resources. But we must remember that wild dogs are coursing hunters. So they're going to really benefit from the slightly more open environment during the winter. Because remember, less water, less vegetation, everything is dying off. Easier for them to see prey and easier for them to chase them down. So for them, for wild dogs, that's when they can get an abundance of hunting opportunities and resources. So that's when they have their birthing period during the winter. So we're coming up on that quite soon, which is very exciting. Anyway, you have been actually listening to me for quite a while. I'm going to, just over an hour, I'm going to move this camera just over to the side so we have a fuller view, like that. And I'm going to be quiet for a little while. Of course, you can still send through your questions and your comments by going to our website and registering. And I will try my best to answer them. But for now, let's just take a moment, couple minutes, to just enjoy the sights and the sounds here at Okokoyo. I think that was a nice few minutes. Leopard lover, you have a really interesting question, one that I'm not sure that I can answer. You would like to know what is my favorite Latin name? Oh, Latin classification name. I'm not sure I have a favorite Latin name, but I'll definitely give it a think. You know, whenever I come across these things, then I feel like it's at the tip of my tongue, it's at the forefront of my mind. But when anyone asks me, it feels like I can't think of any that I particularly like, that is. It's always really nice to understand Latin names, though, because they give you clues about the classification of an individual. They tell you about the characteristics in a way. For example, impalas, Epicerus melampus, the mela part of that being black, black-footed or black-legged patches, and the cirrus part of Epicerus referring to horns, horned and black-footed. So they give you some good information about, good basic information about the animal you're talking about or you're learning about. So I always do like Latin names, and apart from that, scientific or Latin names, botanical names, they're specific. They leave no room for ambiguity. You can't be like, oh, well, it's called it's called a monarch butterfly there, but it's called a monarch butterfly here as well. But you're talking about two separate species. When you use a scientific or Latin name, then it is only one thing. Very specific. And I like that.
Wild Earth's mission is an expensive one, but we know that our live experience is important to so many people that cannot afford to pay for it. We have added a donate button to our website. By donating, you are directly helping us share our free nature experiences with the world. We want Wild Earth to reach children, budding conservationists, and the less fortunate. A little money goes a long way. You can make a difference to someone today.
Very cool. You are amazing. Zebra, you are better than the rest. You ventured to the side. Now, what would be really awful is if he got a little bit spooked or tripped, and then I bet it wouldn't come to the side again. Stunning color. Absolutely beautiful. Oh, it's getting a lot busier now. It was so quiet when we started, do you remember? Just 2 springbok. But now things have gotten a lot busier. Still not as busy as some of the other times we've spent here, but definitely a lot busier than previously. Oh, a little bit of a springbok fight here. Definitely starting to fill up. The rest of the party has arrived, I see. And not only at Okokoyo, Lauren and Rian in Madikwe have arrived too. So let's go over so they can say good morning to you all.
Good afternoon, everyone. The sun has popped out here in Madikwe, and I don't know what to feel about the weather this morning. It was cold earlier, but now the sun is shining, and this blue wildebeest is thoroughly enjoying basking in the sunlight, getting all of that vitamin D. We are here at Clo Dam, but first things first, my name is Lauren and I do have Rian behind the camera. And this is a dam that I haven't been to since coming back. It's actually quite far north. We did have a lot of zebra, they have now disappeared, but you can see this magnificent dam that is called Clo Dam, and Clo means elephant in Tswana. So this really is Elephant Dam, and it's not just a namesake, to be honest with you. This dam has the most spectacular elephant sightings. Not right now, but that doesn't mean it's going to change. And one thing I have noticed since coming back to Madikwe, after being away since January, I really haven't seen any elephants. Normally they're always at the drift and they're always hanging around the northeast. I think I've seen a few, but really not the number of elephants that Dobby and I were seeing before I left in January. So I'm hoping, very much hoping, that they do arrive at their very own dam. Sometimes you've just got to sit and wait. You've got to go at the pace of nature and just literally let nature come to you. I heard recently that we forget that we are human beings. We are not human doings. We always want to do, go. And I am very guilty of that when I'm in the vehicle. I want to go to the next place. Okay, there's nothing at this water body. Let's go to the next one. Drive. Actually, that's far too much doing. And sometimes we need to go back to just being. And I thought that was a really beautiful way of expressing humans. We're far too much yang. We need to incorporate more yin. And since I am a qualified yin yoga instructor, which is really bizarre, we'll try and do that. We'll try and take very calm moments around the water hole. Things change so fast at the water hole. Some animals will spend a lot of time hanging around, drinking, living their best life. Some animals, like zebra, come in quickly and get out quickly. We don't want to be here. This is a dangerous place to be, and it is. I remember Davi and I's very first E2N here. Sorry, escape to nature. That's our little code for escape to nature. Apologies. Davi and I's very first escape to nature, we sat on the other side of this damn wall filming warthogs. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, a lioness comes and just kills one of the warthogs. It was honestly, we got such a fright. We didn't expect it. And then once she'd killed the warthog, another lioness appeared out of nowhere and took down an impala. It was just absolute chaos. So, especially in winter at Madikwe, threats lurk around waterholes because you're vulnerable, you're exposed, you're drinking, so you're bending down with your rear end exposed, not paying attention, not looking properly, not listening properly. So that's why many animals come in for a quick drink and get out of there. Just like those zebras did. They gone. Michelle, thank you. Yes, it's really good to be back at Madikwe. As many of you know, I spent months here. We got the whole thing up and running, and we're actually lucky enough to see different parts of it. Spent a lot of time in the east. We also got to explore the south a fair bit, and we stayed up in the northwest. We really got to explore Madikwe, and it's a very special place. Madikwe has a different energy to the Lowveld. When I go to Djuma, it's a very different energy. It's just a completely different wilderness space. Different biomes, different vegetation, different behavior. So it just feels different. But it's good to be back. So we're just going to sit here very patiently and literally just wait and see what comes on by. Although I am sitting in the sun, which is not a wise move by myself, sitting at a waterhole is really special. Although there's not much happening right now, that can honestly change in an instant. And it's the sounds, it's the feel of just being at a waterhole. So I think on that note, let's just feel it. Let's just sit here for a moment or two, look at all the glitter dancing on top of the water, and just listen to all the sounds of the bush. Danny, such a peaceful scene. I agree with you. Was really hoping for elephants, Danny, but never mind. They might come. We do have the stripy ones for now, so I'm not complaining. Oh, everybody's coming, even the little foals. Oh, hello, you guys. How long are you going to spend at the water hole? Look at that little foal up the front with Mom, staying very safe to its protector. Wow, this is just wonderful. Let's just sit and watch for a moment. That youngster is very small and really wobbly. I think it's relatively new to this world. That foal is really young. Zebras don't really have a strict birthing season like impala. That zebra's so young. Oh. I think it's just a mere day old. Do you know that? Dobby and I saw one. We saw a zebra birth. I think this is a very new little foal. Welcome to the world, little one. It's a tough world. Stay safe. I've seen a lot of pregnant zebras as well. So some of them are still heavily pregnant, like that one I think is just walking down now. So hopefully you might get lucky and see another zebra birth. planet. Very cute indeed. Now, I don't know what Trishal has been talking about this morning, but as you know, Escape to Nature is a little bit of a slower paced show, and I love to get into discussions. Discussions are important for me. You know, we can really get into topics. So if there is anything that you want to discuss or you want to know about, please do just let us know. I don't have all the answers, but we can definitely discuss them and try to find out. Debbie, they have a really powerful kick. If you want to get physical, zebras will kick the predators. Can do a lot of damage. Dislocate a jaw, break a bone, really injure them. However, they don't have to get physical unless they're under attack. So when it comes to your question, you're obviously talking about fighting them off. But in general, the zebras do stick together in a herd. There are always multiple zebras around, and the herd life, although selfish, is successful. So once one zebra normally spots a predator or smells a predator or hears a predator, it will alarm call. It will let everybody know, not just for everybody's benefit, but for its own benefit. It's better if everybody knows and if everyone is on high alert. So that zebra will vocalize an alarm call and let all the other zebras know, guys, there's a problem. There's a lion here. We're in trouble. All the other zebras will then spot the threat or smell the threat or whatever it is, and they will stare it down. And most likely, if it is an ambush hunter like a lion or a leopard, once they're sort of called out, their game is up. Unless it's a pride of 15 lions and they're just going to go full steam ahead anyway. Normally predators do give up once they've been seen by a large herd. So sometimes zebras will just stand their ground, but then if they are under sort of attack, then they can kick, just like a horse. It's extremely powerful. I feel like this dam should now be called Zebra Dam. There are no clo. Can you honestly believe it's April already? I cannot. It was just New Year yesterday. Anyway, April is special for many reasons, but one of those reasons is that it's Wild Earth's birthday. Yes, we will be celebrating on the 27th of April, so towards the end of the month, and it is our sweet 16th. Goodness me, you know what happens after 16. Woo. Things get wild. But please do send in your birthday videos and your birthday wishes to us at birthday@wildearth.tv. I'm sure it will be celebrations all around for our sweet 16. 16 is really not that sweet. That's when you start to get naughty. but Wilder will not. So we look forward to hearing from you all. Including you, zebras. Yes, we expect happy birthday from all of you too. Gnu to you too. I think he just feels left out. That's okay, buddy. Now you're shy. And you know what I find amazing? I'm actually in the sun right now, so we will have to reposition soon. I just find it so amazing that these animals can just sort of sit in the sun all day. And I understand their skin is different and they have different sort of temperature control proteins than us. I do understand that, but it also just blows my mind. I'm slathered in sun cream, sunglasses, long clothing, and I'm still struggling. Okay, we're going to reposition so that I can get out of the sun, hoping for more elephants to come down, but for now we're going to send you all the way over to Djuma with Trushala.
Oh, it is so nice to have Lauren. So much kind of just a little escape to nature today. Feels kind of nice. Feels like we're on a bush party together with all of you on board as well, though. So we're at Djuma now, which is wonderful. We haven't been able to get onto this camp for some time, but now we are. And interestingly, there have been some leopard sightings this morning around this area. I have been having a good look and kind of zooming right in to those areas that seem to be the most appropriate for a hiding leopard. But remember, it's the heat of the day now, so any predators are going to be in patches of shade, so that's going to make it even more difficult for us to find them. But I do know that at least a hyena or two went down in this direction. But the leopards were seen all the way over on the other side. So you can see the dam wall in front of us. There's a nice big marula tree on the left at the end of that dam wall away from us. So it is kind of around that area and moving up towards the north and the east of Djuma that the leopards were seen moving in, but remember there's also a nice big drainage system on the eastern side of the dam there. And that's a great spot to be in if you are a leopard. There's plenty of spots near this dam, in fact, which would be great hiding places. Hiding from the sun, that is, on this day. So let's have a bit of a look through here. Again, it's going to be so difficult with these patches of shade, but we'll try. Let's have a close look at the shore here. Whoop-de-doo. We have a very comfortable looking waterbuck. Hello, miss. You are hanging around where Dewey often hangs around. Dewey is the hippo, if you are unfamiliar. And this waterbuck is really close to the actual water in this dam. Not something unusual at all. There's a reason they're called waterbuck. They're very comfortable near the water. And they'll often move into the water to avoid predators. And Dewey doesn't seem to have a problem with her at the moment, which is good. I think I see a kingfisher as well, maybe a brown-hooded kingfisher. Let's see, it's just on this branch. I can try to have a closer look, but it might be a little bit shaky because as you can see, it's really windy there at Djuma. But let's give it a bit of a go. It's always nice to see some birds. Oh, no, not a kingfisher at all. I was hoping it was. But now I really can't see what that is. It's incredibly blurry. Looks like maybe a green-backed heron. Has the right shape. Again, it's not going to be clearer if we get in closer, so I'm going to pull us out a little bit. But at least we got a better idea of the shape of that bird. Hard to tell, but we can continue to have a good think. The shape is definitely greenback heron-y. It was hard to see much else though, I must say. It's moving so carefully. Makes sense as well because it's near the water. We often see greenback herons in this area, close to the water, attempting to catch some food. I think we might even be looking at the very top of Dewey's back there, shining, glistening from the wetness of the water. Anyway, a lot going on here, but let me send you back over to Lauren. And I'm going to keep on looking around, hoping the spotted cat will appear.
Finally, it happened. The elephants, the Clo, have arrived to reclaim their namesake dam. Look at that little one. Yes, it's very exciting. This is a part of Clo Dam they always come to. This is where it's pumped. It is a pump pan. We are Kalahari Desert here, so it can get very dry, especially in drought conditions. So they always come to the freshest of freshest water. Ah, it's good to see them. I hate people that say, I can't taste the difference in water. Water is water. No, it's not. Water is not just water. I've said this many times before, but there's a video on YouTube or somewhere in the dark wide web where a woman, or multiple people actually, are asked to taste and test different unnamed water. So it just looks like a normal glass of water, and it's different types of water. It's tap water, spring water, Evian, and all the different Fiji water, and all the different types of water you get. And they had to see if they can tell a difference between them, and it's really fascinating. Some people can. It baffles me. It's amazing how elephants just appear out of nowhere. They're huge, big, great grey pachyderms, and yet I don't know if Rian can see this far because of the pole, but they're just appearing out of the thicket. Herds of them. Like, where did you come from? You can lose elephants really easily. It's remarkable how quickly they disappear. When you think of an animal's Umwelt, my best friend in the whole world is German, and she really is not impressed with the way I say that, but anyway. And if you think of an animal's Umwelt and its sensory world, we all do things in life that please our senses. So whether it's looking at something that we like to look at, for example, a really cute animal, we love that animal and we put posters of that animal up on the wall. Oh, look at all of this here, Rian. We've got elephants and zebra all together. Look at that. And or colors that we like. If we're really attracted to a color, we'll paint our wall. If we like a smell, we'll bring it into our home, whether it's a strong scent or whether it's a earthy scent. If we like a sound, we'll play it. Some people fall asleep to the sound of waves or raindrops or whale song. We eat chocolate. Why? We know it makes us fat, but we eat it because we love it. We get a lot of pleasure from eating chocolate. It's pleasurable to most people's taste buds. I won't say all, because we're all built slightly differently, but that's why we do things in life. That's what drives us. Pleasure drives us. I'm not talking in a sexual sense. I'm talking just in life. Pleasure makes us do things because we enjoy it. Pain makes us not do it because we don't enjoy it and our body reacts to it and ultimately it's painful, right? And I think with elephants, their every sense is so highly stimulated by water. I think they are really water beings. Although they're not aquatic, I think they're really stimulated and excited by the smell of water, the feel of water, the taste of water, the sound of water. And I'm not really going to say the look of water, because I don't think elephants are particularly visual, to be honest. But I think they just get so stimulated. It gives them great pleasure. And that's why we see the water walk and the happiness around water body. I don't think, some people say, oh, the elephants are thirsty and they're so happy to go to water. I don't think that's it. They drink a lot. I don't think they're excessively thirsty. That's why they've got their water walk on. I believe that they're just so excited because they get so much pleasure from being in, around, on top of water. Water is their element. I think it heightens our senses. And even in human terms, I just mentioned we do things through pleasure, what drives us. Animals do too. And it's important. I once read an article recently about having a pet dog. I've had dogs all my life. And sometimes we do scold them when they go smell another dog's feces. No, don't do that, puppy. Don't do that. Or when they go smell someone's crotch or another dog's bottom. Yes, we react and we don't let them. We either scold them or we yank on their leash. But actually, you should let them smell. It can be highly embarrassing when a dog really throws you under the bus like that, but you should let them smell as much as they can. Smelling other dogs' feces is not pleasant to us, but that's them really understanding their environment. That's them stimulating their primary sense and the peak of their Umwelt. And it just boils down to that awful mirror test with dogs. Stupid mirror test that humans designed. Oh, if an animal can see the dot on their forehead, they can recognize themselves. Elephants were able to recognize that it was them they were looking at in the mirror. Chimpanzees, they recognized themselves. Dogs could not. So for a long time it was said dogs are stupid. They can't recognize themselves in a mirror, they're stupid. Hold on a minute here. We have just applied a very human test with very human thinking onto an animal that is not visual. And we turn around and say, oh, dogs are stupid. How can a dog recognize itself in the mirror when it doesn't? Its primary sense is not its eyes, it's scent. So in order for that animal to live in a really fully stimulated world full of pleasure, it needs to stimulate that sense, and that is scent. So whenever your dog is smelling something that's not so nice, maybe it's a dead pigeon, oh, you're going to freak out. As long as it's not eating the dead pigeon or bringing it back to your house, maybe you should just let it smell it. Am I pushing too many boundaries here? You've got to keep your dog stimulated, and there's actually lots of games and things you can play with your dog in the house where you're stimulating its chemical scent. You're keeping it active. You don't want it to dull. That's the essence of being a dog. That's its light. You don't want that light to dull. And for elephants, I truly believe their light, a lot of it, shines around water. I know I always tell you about this series called Explained on Netflix, and I tell you to watch it. I hope some of you have gone and watched it, and I'd love to know your thoughts. Some of you may have never heard me say this before, but there's a series called Explained, and it's on all sorts of different topics, short episodes, and it explains a topic, and one of the topics is dogs. And the episode is very cleverly done because visually they're trying to, because we're visual beings and we watch documentaries and we watch the TV, the creators of this episode try to convey what it's like to live in a chemical world as a dog visually so that we can understand. Does that make sense? We can only understand it by seeing it because we're visual beings. So they've tried to graphically and they've tried to create a really unique episode tapping into the dog's Umwelt, tapping into that chemical world that we are so oblivious to, but portraying it in a visual form of a documentary. and it's really fantastic. They've really done a good job of getting us to expand our minds that there's a whole chemical world going on right now, and we just see it. Elephants do. They have a herd perfume. The pachyderm perfume, unique to each herd. We can't smell it at all, but these guys can.
Thanks to our wonderful Wild Earth explorers, Wild Earth Kids is back. Your monthly subscriptions have allowed us to relaunch Wild Earth Schools on a weekly basis, every Wednesday for the first hour of the Sunset Safari.
You guys bring a smile to my face every single day.
Sign your class up for a special virtual field trip to Africa, because touching the lives of the future protectors of our Earth truly matters.
Okay, so we're at, it looks like she's just gone behind that bush. If you missed her, we were looking at Tlalamba. It looked like Tlalamba at least, which is a leopardess. She just came to the water's edge. Oh, there we go. Got her. I think it's her, I must say. It's definitely not Morwati, which would be the other one we could find in this area. Could be Maribs, who is Tlalamba's nephew. Oh, brother. Sorry. Both their mums. Miss Thandi. Come on. Where are you? What an absolute privilege. I can't tell you how my heart was racing when I saw the face that looked like Tlalamba, because I love Tlalamba. She's so special to me, and I haven't seen her in such a long time. The last time I saw her was in June last year. So this was really special. There we go. Out again on this side. Again, like I said, I'm not 100% sure it is her. Oh. Actually, I don't think that's her now. Michael, you say leopard on dam cam, day made. Day made indeed. Now that I see it, doesn't look like her. Dewlap's too small for Milwaukee, I'd say. Haven't seen Mareebs in a while. If you can recognize this leopard with this kind of image, please let me know. I couldn't exactly... Oh, maybe it is Milwaukee. Okay, that looks like Mareebs to me. Please let me know. I haven't seen Mareebs in a very long time. But it's not quite a long ago. I was also not quick enough to look between the legs, which is a good way to try and figure out if you're looking at a male or a female. But the dewlap is a good indication too. This dewlap didn't look huge, I must say. Keep up, Trishana, keep up. This feels so special. We need the leopard to come out of the bush, hopefully. So, there's a few things that are making me think it's Mareebs. One is the fact that it is hunting near the dam. Appears to be hunting. The reason that I figured that something is around is because of the way that the impala were behaving. So it's hot, it's the middle of the day. There are quite a few antelope around. And this leopard doesn't seem to be making a huge effort to conceal itself. Now those kinds of behaviors would be associated with younger animals. That's why I'm leaning towards Mareebs, but it's difficult to tell really with this kind of image. So I'm going to have to just wait and hope that this leopard comes out of this bush. Whoop whoop, everyone! Amazing! So happy. My eyes lit up, my pulse went up, my palms got sweaty. I was so excited. So excited. This is amazing. This is also one of my dreams. You know, one of my low-hanging dreams is to be able to spot a leopard on the dam cam. Now I can scratch that off my list. Done, dusted. Achieved my dreams. No need to work for the rest of the year. All done. The other thing that's making me think maybe it is Mareebs is the fact that I mistook him for Kalamba at first because of the marks around the eyes. There we go. Lifting the tail, letting the birds and other animals know, hey, stop alarming at me. Although lifting the tail to let us see if you're a boy or a girl will be very helpful. That's a boy. So when a leopard moves around like that, lifting its tail, it's kind of a white flag sign saying, hey, don't worry about me. I know you are alarming at me. I know that you see me, but please stop it. I'm not going to attack you. I'm not going to try and hunt you, but you're giving away my position. So please, let's call a truce. I have my tail in the air. It's a white flag. Stop alarming. You're giving away my position and I won't hurt you. You'll see it as soon as birds start alarming at a leopard. You see it immediately. That tail picks up. And the same goes for antelope, especially if you can see the antelope can see the leopard for some distance and are alarming, knowing that they can't get attacked because leopards, remember, are ambush predators, so they're going to rely on their ability to stalk their prey within a few meters before bursting out to grab hold. So without the element of surprise, their main way of capturing their prey, what they've been well adapted to do, they can't do it. And antelope know that. So when they start alarming at a distance, that leopard will pick up his tail as well. Oh, I was not sure if I saw him spraying urine or not. I don't think so, though. Didn't look like it was being territorial. Again, pointing to Marips. Marips has very fluffy ears. Or at least he did the last time I saw him. But he was still kind of cubby last time. So I wonder if he's still got those really fluffy ears or not. Okay, let's hang back for a little and hope that it pops out. Now that was thrilling, don't you say? You. So I thought that he would pop out near this marula on the right there. But to be honest, he's already moved quite a bit. Hi, Danny. You would like to know if leopards are more active at this time? No, they're not. Leopards are most accurately described as crepuscular animals that are most active during dusk and dawn. They are very active at night as well. In fact, classically, they would be classified as nocturnal. But if there's one thing being around lots of leopards in a natural space for a long time has taught me, is that they can be active whenever they want. There are no rules, really. It just depends on how they feel on the day and how the conditions are. If it's very wet, not going to be very active. If it's very hot, they're not going to be very active. But ordinarily speaking, generally, they are not particularly active during the heat of the day. That's because they're predators. Their prey is going to be more vulnerable in the evenings, and they overheat quickly. So hunting in the night or when it's darker or cooler is the best time. You won't overheat, and you have that edge over your prey. So that's when we most see them. You know, it starts to become just a ridiculous thing. in that when we used to do the PM safari, the sunset safari, it was absolutely ridiculous how predictable it was that come the setting sun, someone will just bump into a leopard. It actually became ridiculous. Same goes for the morning in the sunrise safari. As soon as we head out of camp, someone is bound to just bump into a leopard. I think that might have been it, dear friends. Let's have a quick look around one more time. I know exactly which marula tree we stopped at there, so we can return. But let's just have another look around, because it's possible there may be another leopard. Slow us down a little bit. He could have gone flat, resting in that area. Oh well, it was amazing as it lasted. So I'm happy. Now it's going to be hard to concentrate on much else because we're going to keep looking in this direction, hoping that he pops out again. If it's a nice breezy day, which it obviously looks like, he might end up in these trees. Leopards will often do that on a hot day. When there's a nice breeze, get up into the trees where they can catch that breeze and get some shade. I'm not sure which other leopard could be in this area. From what I remember, at least, Tavangumi would be in the northwest. Langa, Shasha, I don't know if you've seen Shasha in a while, but Langa and Shasha are Sibuyi's offspring. Last I knew about their territory, it was towards the south. I know that Langa comes in from our southern border, junior southern boundary. So I think our options are Molwati, Tlalamba, or Maribs, and I think it's Maribs. Whew, that was lovely. I'm trying to pull myself away from looking, but I can't. Just having a look in this marula. No leopard. Well, that made my day. That definitely made my day. Amazing. Alrighty, well, speechless, nothing else to say. I'm glad that I could share that with you all. But for now, let me send you over to another animal that didn't make or really makes an appearance, particularly this morning, and that's Ralph at Karika. Go over to say hello. It's almost the afternoon. Good afternoon.
Well, hello everyone. Good morning and welcome to the Kariega Game Reserve in the Eastern Cape, where we've been experiencing typical Eastern Cape weather with rolling showers and, as we say, 4 seasons in one day. And my name is Ralph Kirsten, and I'm just sitting out near to the Scotia Dam in the Scotia clearings, watching some of these wildebeest with little youngsters that they have with them. And now that we see little youngsters, it's probably a good time to announce that in fact our famous rhino Thandi has indeed given birth. We haven't seen the baby, but it has been reported that she has in fact now got a new little one, and so that is fantastic news. She's gone off by herself. She is remaining solitary for the time being, and she'll probably stay like that for the next 2 weeks or so. I'm just hoping that we get to see her within the next 2 weeks so that we can see the new addition to the Kariega family. And what a wonderful story it is indeed. With Thandi, the rhino that was poached, and she in fact survived, and now she's had another little calf. So that's wonderful news that I am at least been able to bring to you. The bad news is that yeah, these rolling showers are probably going to continue on for the rest of the day. So we do have some sunny patches, but now it looks like that sun has gone again and there's big rain on the horizon. But we'll stay out as long as we can as we get photobombed by this warthog walking in front. Probably just grazing through. So that warthog just enjoying a nice little meal, I think. Dogs are rather skittish, so at least this one's hanging around a bit. Especially if I stand up in the back of the vehicle here, they generally run off. They're quite nervous. This one nice and relaxed. Another little youngster just joined them. Blesbok there in the background. So there's quite a good mix of animals in this particular area. We have those blue wildebeest, there's some zebra, these warthogs, there's also some inyala around, as well as a nice big herd of impala as well. I am doing my best just to keep everything still. You can see there's a lot of wind around, so it does make the animals a little bit skittish as well. It makes my camera work a little bit skittish too. Let's just pan across here and I'll show you some of these impala that are here as well. Alrighty, so I do feel a few drops that are just starting to fall now. Hopefully it doesn't get any harder, but But while I see and try and negotiate this weather, let's head you off to Lauren.
The elephant pool party is still ongoing at our side. So much fun in all corners. Look at that little one. And you know, thinking of elephant senses is funny because we often say they don't have good eyesight. And it's not that they don't have good eyesight, that's actually really not correct. It's that their eyesight is different from ours. And when you think about color, this is really hard for us to get our head around, but color is fundamentally subjective. There's actually nothing inherently green about a blade of grass. Green happens to be my favorite color. But it's our photoreceptors and our eyes, our neurons and our brain that turns the physical property of this sort of nanometers of light into the sensation of green. We do that, we make green. I once read somewhere that color exists in the eye of the beholder, and I thought, and then it said, and also in their brain. But we think that we can see it all, but we can only see what we can see. And in the animal kingdom, you do actually get monochromats, like, for example, sloths, armadillos. They only have one rod cell. And it's not geared towards color. They don't need color vision, it hasn't evolved that way, and they sort of see more in black and whites and grays. That immediately tells you that they're sort of relying on other senses. Elephants are just like dogs and horses. They have two cones, different types of cones. One is a sort of long yellow-green opsin, if you like, and the other is a short blue-violet one. Yellows and blues. So these organisms mostly see in yellows and blues and greys. So the elephant is not seeing, Claude, damn how we are seeing it. There's another herd coming in, yes. And that just blows my mind. Yes, they don't have as many cones as us. They don't see the same color spectrum as us, but that doesn't mean their vision is bad. They are said to be slightly short-sighted. So their vision is just completely different. We are trichromatic. We have 3 cones. But you actually also get tetrachromatic. And a lot of fish, insects, butterflies, some birds are tetrachromatic. But believe it or not, there's actually some specific opsins that allow you to have tetrachromatic vision sit on the X chromosome. Lovely bit of drama there. So it's mostly women, but there is a woman and she doesn't want to reveal her full name. She doesn't want to be known. She goes in science. Okay, we will come back to that point, but for now, over to Trish and Okakoyo.
To lose Lauren a little bit at the end there, but what she was saying, if you didn't catch that, was that there are even some humans that are tetrachromatic, which means they have 4 cone cells, so 4 different types of color receptors. And she also mentioned that they're mostly women who have that. Eyesight is one of my favorite things. I love learning about the way in which we can perceive the environment around us. And it's amazing how we all do it slightly differently. Obviously, like Lauren was pointing out, it's subjective, it's happening in our brains. And it all has to do with light, and light is made up of all the colors. It just depends on what that particular object, what wavelength is reflected back out into the environment for us to look at. But that interpretation of that wavelength happens in our brains. So when we talk about cone cells, which are the cells that perceive color, each one, for example, with the zebra and the springbok or the elephants, they don't have red cone cells. What that means actually is that the cone cells in their eyes, they don't have ones that detect the wavelength associated with red color. So even though the wavelengths are constantly there, we are perceiving them, they don't have the receptor to be able to perceive them. And in fact, being able to perceive red as a mammal is not very common. It's something that you see in humans, obviously. Not always, though. But it's something that you see in humans, and it's something that you see in apes and a few other mammals. But that's it. And that's because to us, red is important. Being able to detect red may have been driven by I'm sorry, I'm thinking about something Steve said yesterday on the PM Safari 2, and it all links in. Red is a really good color to know because it's the color of your own blood. You will be able to tell that you are bleeding if you can see red. You'll also be able to tell that a fruit is nice and ripe and ready to be eaten. So if you were watching the PM or the Sunset Safari last night, Steve was talking about the monkey orange fruit, the strychnos fruit, and how he said that when the fruit is unripe, it is green, there's a lot of strychnine in it. And it's a way for that plant to tell animals, don't eat me yet. I am not mature. If you eat me, you're going to die because you're going to be part of an Agatha Christie movie and you're going to be poisoned with strychnine. I'm a huge Agatha Christie fan, if you didn't know. So being able to detect when a fruit is ripe was important to us, particularly to our more arboreal ancestors. So being able to detect red as the color of our blood, because we were not as good at healing, at defending ourselves as many of the other animals out here. Most of our resources went towards our brain. It was really important that we could see our own injuries, that we could see injuries on others, that we could see red from a distance, and that we could find red fruit, ripe fruit, as to avoid potential problems like strychnine poisoning. Really important. But for animals that are grazers or browsers, how important is it really? But it all depends on so many different circumstances, situations, environmental factors that come together to allow a particular feature to be pushed forward through a population.
We hope that when you watch Wild Earth, you will fall in love with nature. We know that our explorers share a passion for nature and want to make a difference. Wild Earth Schools is back. Sign up to be an explorer, and your subscription will help us reach the future conservationists of our planet. Invest in something that truly matters, encouraging children to care for our beautiful wild earth. Wild Earth Explorers, make a difference.
Vision is extraordinary. And not just the cells, the different types of cells that we have in our eyes in order to detect different wavelengths of light, but also the position of eyes, the size of pupils, the shapes of pupils, movement of eyes or lack thereof in some species. Michelle, you say eyesight in different creatures can get very complicated. Absolutely. It's essentially the same thing, but the way in which. I mean, we spoke about this yesterday, right? We're all essentially the same thing. Collections of cells put together in different ways for different functions. And the same goes for eyes and eyesight. Same material, essentially, but constructed in different ways to help us in our particular habitat and niche. Stunning. Beautiful. I can go on and on and about eyes, but I'll send you back over to Lauren. I'm sure she wants to complete chatting about that lady with the tetrachromatic eyesight.
Oh, I love you, Trishala. I haven't seen her in so long. I miss you, Trish. But the dissection thing, oh, I don't know. Trish is brave. She can do it. Yeah, obviously I don't have as strong a stomach as Trishala. But she's right. I am going to speak about tetrachromatic. Before we got cut off, I was telling you there is a woman, a human woman, who doesn't want to be named, so she goes under the sort of title CDA29. Would have been easy just to call her Mary, but never mind, she likes CDA29. She's a very private person, and she is tetrachromatic. So this is not the case for humans. We are trichromatic, so it's obviously a genetic mutation. And she has done interviews, and she sort of describes it like she can see basically what we can see, the reds, the greens, the blues, but she can also see the UV colors, the violet and the ultraviolet colors that we cannot see. And they do say that tetrachromatic organisms, white is never just white. So what we think is white is not white. And that to me just blows my mind. I just can't get my head around it. And it is described, we're looking for a little calf here, by the way, who looks tiny and possibly not so well, so that's what Rian's currently doing. Both its ears are completely flopped over. But yes, tetrachromatic humans can actually identify between minuscule changes in the different shades of, let's go with green again. So we look at a bush, let's just say a guarri bush, and to us all the guarri leaves look the same shade of green, but they won't be. Some of them will have more chlorophyll, some of them will be a little bit darker, some of them might have some tannins, they might be a different shade. A tetrachromatic human can see each individual change. They will view every leaf on the guarri completely differently. Green is not just green, and white is definitely not just white. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine living like that? So she obviously doesn't like the attention, but she's got 4 different kinds of opsins, and they're tuned into completely different wavelengths. And I just think really when it comes to color, like I said, color is in the eye of the beholder, or the brain, should we say. We make color what it is. Color isn't perceived by every single organism in the same way. And I've used the example of fish before, but there are damselfish, they've got the ambon and the lemon, who look identical to the human eye. We can't really tell them apart, but they can tell each other apart. The ambons are very aggressive towards the lemons, but not to other ambons. They're chill, they hang out, they like each other. But when a lemon comes in, ooh, it's not a good day. How do they know? They look exactly the same, right? No, of course they don't. Fish are tetrachromatic. They can see UV patterns. And when you put these fish under UV light, again, which has been done in many experiments, they have completely different markings on their face. They actually don't look anything alike. And that is how they are able to tell the difference between each other. Because they don't look remotely the same, because they are tetrachromatic. They can see things that we cannot see. And when it comes to humans, we don't see it. So we just think, oh, you know, these fish look the same. What's the big deal? Well, it is a big deal. They're different species. Oh, goodness, the elephants are just everywhere. Bailey, fantastic question, and to be honest, I'm not sure I can answer that. Really, considering CDA29 wants to remain anonymous, it makes me think that possibly life is hard for her. I'm just making massive assumptions here, really, really speculating. Some elephants going down in front of us. So wonderful. I really wanted to show you that youngster. His ears are completely flopped over, but we can't see it. So yes, it makes me think that she wants to remain anonymous for a reason. Maybe life is difficult because she does perceive her world completely different from other humans. And considering that some humans have really good hearing, some have bad. But considering humans are highly visual, it maybe just puts her on a spectrum where it's a little bit challenging for her to see all this additional color. Maybe it's overwhelming for her brain. Maybe just normal socialization is different because she's seeing things that people are not seeing. I don't know. I'm massively speculating. But in answer to your question, advantage, I wouldn't think so. If it was advantageous for us to be tetrachromatic, I think it would have evolved that way by now. If it's not necessary for us, if it doesn't benefit us in our lifestyle or our habits or our survival, then it's not going to evolve that way, if that makes sense. Our bodies are not going to waste energy on something that's not necessary. We're still trichromatic after all these years. So primates, believe it or not, actually started off dichromatic like elephants. But then something happened. There was a change. Maybe it was a mutation. And all of a sudden they became trichromatic. And I think Trishala was talking about being able to pick out fruits from trees. Foraging strategy. So that was probably what happened. Trichromatic was a random genetic mutation that just happened, but actually it benefited, it worked. It made them better at foraging, it gave them a reproductive advantage and a survival advantage, and therefore that mutation stuck. And now all primates are trichromatic. So maybe that will happen to humans, but it hasn't so far. And those humans, I think there are more than one, I only know of CDA29, who are tetrachromatic. It is just a mutation. Genetic mutations can happen all the time. So great question, Bailey. I just don't have the answer. I can't think of any advantage it would really give to us. I think it would be really cool. Ah, Damon, that is exactly the reason she wants to be anonymous. You've nailed it. The government might want to force her to become a superhero. Or hide her because she is a superhero. Yes, Damon, we've uncovered something here. We're onto something. But in all seriousness, maybe she's just a really shy person. I am speculating, making assumptions. But she doesn't want it to be known. She doesn't really talk about it. But she is fully tetrachromatic. So she does not view this landscape how we do. She does not look at a sheet of paper and just see white. She can see the violets and the ultraviolets. So everything looks completely different. And in my book, The Immense World, it's funny because it goes into great detail about eyesight. And the chapter on colour is called Rurple, Grurple and Yurple. He's making new names for colours that are in the ultraviolet spectrum. And this is An Immense World by Ed Yong, one of the best books I have ever read in my entire life. I love it. It's fascinating. You can go really, really deep. They say that colourblind people see more, I'm not colourblind, I don't know, but see more similar to elephants on the chromatic scale. That's what their vision will be like. Not monochromatic, which is just black and white. Their vision is just reduced, so it's more akin to those that are dichromatic. 1, 2, 3, or 4 types of cones. There it is, Rian, just to the right. Just go right. There you go, that tiny little one. Look. You are so tiny, and look at your ears. Oh. I think it's just a newborn. I think that's why it just looks so small, and its ears are obviously, I don't know, folded over, bless. Bless its little cotton socks. But in all honesty, obviously Trishala was getting really excited about eyesight as well. That is very much the case when you dig into the sensory world and you start to compare humans, what we know, to other organisms. It really, life just starts to make sense. And we really start to feel our place in the natural world, which is not very high at all. But we just get so wrapped up in just thinking the world is just how we see it or feel it or smell it or hear it. And it's just not the case. I was speaking about giraffes on the sunrise safari. There is a token giraffe in the background there. Rian. Just a token giraffe in amongst all of the elephants. But they're not silent, they do speak. They're actually very vocal. They talk all night, we just don't hear it. So lo and behold, humans thought for a long time giraffes were silent. We're very guilty of this, projecting our mindset onto the animal kingdom. I don't think nowadays, but back in the day, absolutely. We don't hear anything from giraffes, so they're silent. But they're not. They're just producing infrasonic sounds that are too low for our hearing to pick up. I get really excited talking about this stuff. Rachel, I love it. You're saying it's very mind-opening and eye-opening. Yes, exactly. And if you are an avid reader, I really do suggest this book. It is, again, an immense world. How animals' senses reveal the hidden realms around us. And it goes into great detail from octopus to fish to elephants to dogs to absolutely every single organism you can think of. Even electroreception by sharks. Look at this bull here, he's not very happy, look. He's got his trunk over his tusks. They're having a bit of an interaction here. Jackson, oh really, you love Clos Dam. I wonder if you've been. It is a great dam. I have lots of memories of Clos Dam from working with Wild Earth here, but also on vacation. I've come here a lot to Tree Frog, which is up in the northwest, and Clos Dam you frequent a lot. I think it's one of my favorite dams too, I think. In Madikwe. Clos Dam's up there. Lives up to his namesake all the time. These bulls are still investigating one another. They're probably communicating. They're probably talking. Again, we just can't hear it. heard that. I just love sitting and listening to elephants. I think it's important to feel the sighting as much as watch it. There's always so much happening in an elephant sighting. I'm never quite sure where to look. Interactions, communicating, interesting behavior. Oh, Erica, another deep question. Again, just my opinion, but I think any wild organism will never be able to understand us. They will never understand why humans do the things they do. Never. Yes, we have great relationships with our pets, absolutely, but that's a very different scenario. Any wild animal, I really don't think they understand anything about us. We're so conflicting. We harm, we kill, we hurt. But some of us are also gentle and care, and I think we have become so separated from the animal. We are animals, but we've become so separated from the natural world that we really just don't fit into it anymore. And I don't think they'll ever understand us. But that is just my opinion. You are always welcome to disagree with me. Oh, Jackson, you've never been here. Okay, you just know Clodagh from Wild Earth. It's on the top of your wish list. I hope you get here one day, Jackson. It's a great dam, especially in winter. I was telling Rian, Davi and I came when it was winter. So we've actually seen what this reserve is like when water becomes scarce. When everything starts to dry out and the whole energy of the place changes. And who's taking a tantrum now? I had some of my best sightings in winter. And Clodagh is pumped, so you'll often find it as a very, very active waterhole in winter. Sadly, it's about an hour from where we live now. Rian and I have an hour's journey home. But that's okay. That's it's worth it, of course, but it's very far. I hope you get here one day, Jackson. Esme, exactly. I love it too. And that's what Escape to Nature is all about. It's not about saying everything is beautiful and cute. It's about really getting stuck in and breaking it down together between myself and the other naturalists and you guys. We don't have all the answers. I don't believe we ever will. Not in this lifetime. So it's always good to discuss. And on Escape to Nature, you've got time. You've got time to just slow it down and really dive into whatever you want to talk about. And it ended up being eyesight today. Danny, you're so welcome. You're saying it was a lovely escape. I think so. We had a leopard, large herds of elephants, zebra. I think it's definitely been a good escape to nature. It's another tiny one. He's not got floppy ears, so it's not the same one. Oh, look at you. Precious little bundle. Clodagh was definitely worth it. It's a big journey, a monster journey, but worth it. And on that note, we have come to the end of another fantastic escape to nature. So thank you everyone for jumping on board. We really couldn't do it without you. We would just be talking to ourselves or our cameraman. Thank you for participating in all our wonderful discussions. You really make what it is that we are trying to do, connecting people with nature. So please do join us this afternoon for the Sunset Safari. Until then, have a fantastic day.